In today's vlog, we're taking you on a trip to one of the most picturesque corners of Europe, the Dolomites, and more precisely, South Tyrol. For several days, we drove along winding mountain roads, visiting the most beautiful spots in the region, from charming towns, through the famous Lago di Braies, all the way to the monumental peaks of Seceda and Trecime di Lavaredo. Along the way, we stayed in two unique hotels that can be a perfect base for mountain adventures. As always, we'll tell you what's worth seeing here, where to eat, and what absolutely deserves a spot on your bucket list. And since we noticed that 97% of you watch our videos without subscribing, don't forget to hit that button so you don't miss the next episodes, because very soon we'll be sharing more videos from Italy and Spain. Let's start with the question of when to visit the Dolomites. Because, surprisingly, it's not so obvious. We ourselves had to move our trip, originally planned for the end of May, 3 weeks later into mid-June. And that's because the Dolomites actually have quite a short season, something we didn't know before. Only when we started researching did we realize that even late spring, like May, can be risky. Snow often still covers the trails, some routes remain closed, and cable cars usually don't start running until late May or even early June. The season typically lasts until mid or late October, so those are the best months to plan your trip. If we are talking about the summer season, of course.
We divided our Dolomites trip into two parts and spent the first few days in one of the two most popular and recommended towns, Ortisei. And honestly, it was a fantastic decision. This town has the perfect location. From Ortisei, you can take cable cars in two different directions straight to two must-see places in the Dolomites, Seceda and Alpe di Siusi. On top of that, Ortisei itself turned out to be the most beautiful town we saw in the entire region, so it's definitely a place you can't skip. Another highlight was our hotel, which was probably one of the best we've ever stayed in. And let me tell you, finding a nice place to stay in the Dolomites without spending a fortune is almost impossible. There are plenty of gorgeous, luxurious hotels, but they often cost 400 to 500 euros per night or more. And in fact, there's no real upper limit. We even saw offers for several thousand euros a night. This is not a budget destination. Even a bed in a simple mountain hut with bunk beds costs around 70 to 80 euros per person, so you can imagine how expensive it is here.
Luckily, both of our hotels we found at really good prices for the Dolomites, so in the end we were very happy. The first one had an amazing view straight onto Ortisei's main promenade, a view we had never had before. The apartment itself was spacious, with 2 rooms, and the bathroom even had a private sauna. As always, we'll leave you a link in the description, but wait until you see the second hotel in part 2 of our Dolomites vlog, because that one was even better. After a few days here, we also drove down to Lake Garda, because if you didn't know, it's only 2 hours away from the Dolomites. We think it's perfect to combine these two destinations, change the scenery a bit, swim in the lake, and experience what feels like real Italy, where everyone around speaks Italian. Because if you don't know, in South Tyrol the main language is German. The towns all have names in 2 languages, and in most restaurants we visited, the menus were in German, and we even ordered in German, though of course English works too.
On our first day, right after checking into the hotel, we went to one of the most picturesque places in the Dolomites, which we'll show you in just a moment. But first we had to grab some food because we were starving. In Ortisei we can recommend a nice little restaurant with very good pizza. Although this was also our first reality check with prices. For 2 pizzas and 2 drinks we paid 57 euros, and that's without tip. At that point we already knew this trip was not going to be cheap. In the afternoon we headed to one of the most scenic valleys in the entire Dolomites, Val di Funes. This is where you'll find the lovely village of Santa Maddalena and the iconic view of a small church with majestic peaks rising up in the background. We first went to the viewpoint near the little church of San Giovanni in Ranui. The best view is from a field that's fenced off, and to get right up close to the church you need to pay a few euros. After that we drove to another parking spot and hiked up for about 30 minutes to reach a higher viewpoint. This place completely enchanted us. The silence, the peace, and that breathtaking panorama. And if you're wondering where in the Dolomites you can catch the most beautiful sunset, it's right here.
If you like to see more places like this, learn how to get there and have all the viewpoints and parking spots linked directly to Google Maps, plus discover the most beautiful trails and lakes we don't show in this video, be sure to check out our mini guide to the Dolomites and the northern part of Lake Garda. Inside you'll find a ready-made plan for 6 days in the Dolomites and 4 days at Garda. Over 100 pages with detailed descriptions of trails, towns, beaches, viewpoints and must-see attractions. You'll also get our practical tips, info about car rental, accommodations, apps and even how to book flights to northern Italy for less than 15 euro one way. We've put together 80 verified spots, each linked to Google Maps, organized day by day, plus an interactive map with over 70 pins divided by category, recommended restaurants and as many as 10 great hotels. And all of that for less than the price of a pizza. You'll find the link to the guide in the description below.
In this episode we also have another food recommendation, the restaurant Wirt an der Maal, which has been open continuously since 1585. The place has an amazing vibe, like an old alpine home. The menu is all about South Tyrolean cuisine, dumplings, homemade pasta and meat. Everything was delicious and super filling, though again not cheap. We paid over 60 euros for 2 dishes and 2 drinks. The next day we headed to Seceda, a peak rising 2,518 meters above sea level, one of the most iconic and spectacular places in the Dolomites. These jagged towering ridges look incredible, especially when the clouds hang low. We went in mid-June and got a hot, cloudless day, so the sky was a little hazy and we missed that dramatic effect, but even so the views were stunning. On top you'll find several trails, so you can just take a short walk to a viewpoint or plan a longer route.
You can reach the top directly by cable car from Ortisei, which is super convenient if you're staying there. Tickets aren't cheap. We paid 52 euros per person for a round trip, but honestly, it's worth it. As you already know, time in the Dolomites is precious, and hiking up here on foot would be a pity, since the trail isn't that spectacular and the round trip is nearly 30 kilometers. Instead, we definitely recommend riding up and then exploring the trails on top. Surprisingly, few people do this. Most visitors take the cable car, snap a few pictures, grab food at the hut and head back down. In our opinion though, you should walk past all the huts and at the 5th one, called Malga Pieralongia, step through a little wooden gate. That's where the truly spectacular views begin. In summer, you might also spot donkeys, rabbits and cows near this hut. We went a bit before the season, so we weren't that lucky. If you're enjoying this episode, make sure to subscribe to catch the rest of our travel videos. You'll find whole series from Italy, Spain, Greece, the Canary Islands, Portugal, Japan, and many other parts of the world. We show the most beautiful places, trusted hotels and restaurants, attractions, prices, and our practical tips to help you plan the perfect trip. But now, let's get back to the video. Of course, as always, food was part of the adventure too. In our guide, you'll also find out which hut on Seceda is worth eating at, since there are a few, and in one of them we unfortunately had a small fail with cold food. By the way, we recently heard about massive lines to take the cable car up to Seceda. And on social media we've seen videos of hundreds of people waiting. Honestly though, when we went in mid-June, we walked straight in without any queue at all. So we really encourage you to visit the Dolomites in September, October or June, rather than in July or August when it's most crowded. Just keep in mind that most cable cars, including Seceda, only run from early June to mid or late October. We hope you enjoyed our vlog from the first 2 days in the Dolomites. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part, where we'll show you even more beautiful places and trails you absolutely need to see in South Tyrol.